Hey Tri-State, we're about to pop into my office to talk about one of my favorite subjects, how to teach leadership team members to lead awesome sessions. Is it this cold there? It probably is, right? I'm not missing out. Whew, okay.
Here are 4 steps to help staff not only care about what you're talking about, but also help them retain that information. 1, grab their attention. 2, keep the information very short and to the point. 3, give staff members the time to do something with that information. And 4, sum up what you talked about and give them a little opportunity to reflect. I know what you must be thinking. 15 minutes is way too short to get information done in a session. I'm not suggesting that you do only 15-minute sessions, but what I'm suggesting is that you only speak for 15 minutes at a time. It's not that people have a hard time staying concentrated, it's actually that they can't absorb that amount of information for that amount of time. They need to get to a next step where they do things. Think of it this way. If you have a cup of water and then another pitcher of water, once you start pouring that information into the cup, basically what's going to eventually start happening is an overflow of information that you can only handle. Staff members will try to keep up and they will try to look like they're paying attention, but really it's just a matter of overflow, 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 and no retention. That's good.
Alright, so the first step to creating an awesome session is to grab staff members' attention. So fireworks, putting on a crazy mask as you walk into the room. These are good ideas, and you can totally do that, but that's not what I'm going after today. What I'm going after is how do you actually spark a staff member's intellectual attention? And I have 5 ways for us to do that. So number 1 is creating a problem to solve. So a common problem that happens at camp is, homesickness. So the problem would be you're sitting at the dining room table, there's a camper that's crying. What do you do? And that will go into our staff member's mind and ignite that part of their brain to focus on camper care and home loneliness. Number 2, what we're looking at is making your job easier. So starting with a statement. Use these 3 tips to never have to plunge a toilet again. That will definitely get my attention. Number 3, we want to tell a personal story. And I remember when I was a young staff member, went to the dining room and the leadership team had decorated the whole place for a birthday party, but kids one. They put the tables up on milk crates so that it was just bigger for us. Everybody got a birthday cake, and I remember just feeling really cared for, and I remember just having a blast. And that leads me to my next point, which is provide an experience. Those leadership team members led a session after that about how to create a space for campers where they feel seen and cared for. And they linked that all to this birthday experience. And it was a memorable one. I'm still talking about it today. And last but not least is linking to the outside world. an idea. And for me, something like, did you know that kids who go to camp are almost 70% more likely to care about the environment? And that's something that, if we tap into something that staff members care about, that's very, very key. Well, congratulations on grabbing your staff's attention. And now in step 2, it's really all about telling him stuff, or step 2, if you will. In this section, we have 3 small and quick to the points. Number 1 is about knowing your goal. And I think it's really important to ask yourself, what do you want staff to know or do? And use that as your compass as you're developing your content. Number 2 is making that information short and to the point. And what I like to do is tell staff what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how. And then I try to keep the how into breaks of 3s, and then I'll repeat. Next, this is what we're doing, why we're doing it, and here you go. Number 3, I make a wish list of I wish I coulds. And this is where I cry a little bit, and I make a list of all the things I wish I could talk about during these sessions, but as we learned earlier on, we need to keep the information short and sweet. And so maybe you need to move that information to somewhere else, to another session, or just put it on the shelf for a rainy day. This following message is brought to you by my cat Jack. He likes bread. And I would love to interrupt this amazing learning experience with a short commercial.
So during staff training, I promote stealing. Well, stealing of information, that is. I ask staff members to look at each other's papers, to whisper so that they can share information. One of my favorite activities is to play stop, swap, and steal. I stop in the middle of a session, I say stop, swap, and steal, and everybody runs around the table trying to gather as much information as possible. You should try stealing at your camp, but just information, because, you know, it could also be bad.
Now that we've learned about stealing information, step 3 is one of my favorite parts, because this is where staff members get to do things. And doing stuff is a very important part of learning. It helps. It's part A of absorbing information, and that's what we really want, is for the staff to absorb this information. So journaling is great to get ideas going. Have your staff journal first, and then what you can do is have them do group discussions. That way, if you have some staff members that are a little bit shyer, they'll already have something to say within the group. Then do scenarios, perhaps, role-playing, acting some stuff out, getting practice on stage. And my favorite, trial and awesome. It's important for people to try things, make mistakes, and try again. It is awesome. Well, we've made it to our final destination, step 4. But before we do that, I just want to say congratulations, awesome session leaders. You've done 3 amazing steps so far. 1, learn how to grab the intellectual attention of your participants. Number 2, telling them stuff, naming your goal, and highlighting your session topics through what are we doing, why are we doing it, and how are we going to accomplish it. Number 3, getting your participants to absorb the information through journaling, group discussion, trial and awesome, and scenarios. And number 4, summing up and reflecting. I like to sum up my sessions by either myself writing it up or asking other staff members to help me. When it comes to reflections, I have 2 favorite topics to do. 1 is asking our participants one thing that they would like to retain from this session, and then maybe ask somebody else what their one thing would be. The other piece is reserved for you in a video. And on that note, I just want to say thank you very much for listening to me.
At the end of a session, have you ever asked your group if they have any questions and nobody lifts up their hand? And then it's frustrating because you know they do have questions. I have a solution for this. One of the things I do at the end of a session is ask people to write down at least one question that they have. And then I have them pair up in groups and they problem solve that question. If they can't solve it on their own, we bring it to the larger group. What's really cool about this is, one, we're teaching them to ask questions. 2, it's okay not to know everything. And 3, they problem solve together. I love questions.